I'm Rosalind from Triple Shot of Sass. You may refer to me as the wise one, right? Well, it's still Tuesday. It's Triple Shot Tuesday. And I'm back with an episode for Black History Month. I know. You're used to the three of us, and you will see the three of us again. But right now, I am just back because, we had a winter break. And boy, you talk about a plot twist. We had everything happen. You talk about the perfect storm, to include me with an Achilles heel injury. And I ended up in a boot, and all of the things that we planned to do during that break, I didn't get a chance to do and participate. We also had some illnesses. We had some scheduled holiday flights delay. You name it, we encountered it. But guess what? We are resilient and we are back. So we're going to be coming to you in our own way for the month of February. And you will also see the three of us together again. Because why? Because it is Triple Shot of Sass. So I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite topics. You probably heard it growing up, or sometimes when you're in the room and someone will say, you are so articulate. Well, what exactly does that mean? We're going to go ahead and unwrap that package for you today. So language, it's not just communication. It is evidence of survival, resistance, adaptation, and intellectual continuity. Let's connect this clearly. Black history is the history of adaptation and constraint. Of course, right? From enslavement through Jim Crow to modern corporate African Americans have had to navigate systems that were just not designed with us in mind. Language became a shield, a signal, a strategy, a cultural archive, if you can believe that. The evolution of African American vernacular, English, or AAVE, is part of that history. It tells the story of enslaved Africans forced to merge multiple West African languages with English, right? Secret communication on plantations, spiritual layering with coded escape directions. You talk about smart. Community building during segregation, strategic speech during the civil rights era, modern code switching in professional spaces. This is historical continuity. That's how you bring it all together. Enslavement and linguistic creation. So during slavery, Africans from different ethnic groups were deliberately mixed so they couldn't communicate. English was imposed, so they all had to learn a new language. Native languages were suppressed, so they couldn't speak their own language. And if they did, because they were in mixed company, who would understand them? So in order to get along, they learned English. What emerged from that was not broken English. It was creolized, rural-governed dialect shaped by West African grammar patterns, preserved today in communities like the Gullah Geechee. I have an aunt from the Gullah Geechee Islands. Yeah. Spirituals such as wade in the water. That's where that comes from. Follow the drinking gourd. That was another song. Those songs contained coded instructions for escape. Language became survival infrastructure. That is Black history. During Reconstruction and the Jim Crow era and respectable politics, after emancipation, Speaking properly became tied to safety and upward mobility. Black Africans were told, sound educated to be treated as human. Speak correctly to access opportunity. This birthed early forms of code switching long before corporate America existed. It's just amazing words. They mean so much. The pressure to modify speech is part of our historical burden of respectable politics. The civil rights era, language as power. Leaders like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X understood audience shifts. They understood. They moved between academic diction and biblical cadence. Community vernacular. So they had three languages, basically, that they would code switch depending upon the audience, right? The Black church perfected call and response rhythm, tonal emphasis, and communal speech patterns that still shape modern Black communication styles today. Again, this is adaptation at its best. It is not a deficiency. Modern professional code switching is a hysterical echo. When a Black executive softens tones in meetings, avoids idioms that feel natural, flattens cadence to avoid stereotypes, and switches speech in front of leadership, that is not new behavior. It is the descendant of centuries of survival speech. Yeah, that's not new. It's what we do. It's strategic invisibility. It's controlled visibility. Cultural navigation. Black history is not only about marches and laws, it is about everyday mechanics of survival, unequal systems. It is about language in one of those mechanics. Why does this matter during Black History Month and beyond? Black history includes music, literature, science, activism, law, and language. AAVE is not slang. It is not ebonics. Code switching is not insecurity. Professional speak adaptation is not new. It is a historical artifact of resilience. The larger truth is that if you remove the context of power, language debates sound academic. But if you place them inside enslavement, segregation, criminalization, employment discrimination, they become historical evidence. Black speech patterns tell a story. They really do. Of forced migration, of cultural retention, of innovation under oppression, of brilliance misnamed as deficiency. Yeah, that is Black history. So you say, what is African American vernacular English? It is Black English, African American English. It is combined with code speech practices developed for survival, resistance, and community protection. For generations, the linguistics, there you go, Roz. The linguistic systems of mischaracterization as broken or poor English, when in reality, it is ruled, governed, sophisticated dialect with deep historical, cultural, and strategic roots. Let's be clear. Let's break it down. Let's talk about it. Code switching is shifting between African American Vernacular English and Standard American English, depending on the audience, for safety. Signifying indirect, metaphorical, or double meaning speech. Call and response is a rhythmic conversational structure rooted in African traditions. And coded language is speech intentionally obscured to protect meaning from outsiders, right? Like, it's just for us. It's not for you. So we talk where we understand. Why these words are shortened or skipped? Well, it was often labeled as missing words. It is actually a systematic linguistic structure, not an error. As an example, she's smart. That's omitting the is. She is smart. She's smart. Or they working. You're omitting the are. They are working. But that's not an error. It really is our way of short stopping it where we can communicate with each other. We understand it. And if you're from the outside, if you're from not around these parts, then you misunderstand, or you might think it's ignorant, or you misinterpret it. But actually, it's precision. It is meaning beyond the tense. As an example, he be working. He's working, right? He be working. Where is he all day? He be working. We understand it. You're talking about an ongoing or habitual action. It's what he does all the time. He be working, rather than he working. That's he working right now. Not necessarily yesterday or all the time, but he working. So that's different than he is working. Or how about he been working? Yeah, he been working. Like he started that a long time ago. Rather than saying, oh, he has been working for a long time. We don't need all the extra words. We understood. I understood you from the word go. So it is a very precise, precisioned conversation that we understand. It's consonant clusters, it's reduction, it's rhythmic efficiency. It enhances the flow, the rhythm, the speed, especially in oral transmission. It's the survival code. This language was developed under slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation. When being fully understood by the dominant culture, we could be in danger. It could be very dangerous for us if they understood everything we were saying during those times. So we limited the information to what needed to be said and to those who needed to understand. We got it. We got it, right? So the function of this code was concealment. Share plans or warnings without alerting the overseer. It was for solidarity, identifying who was safe or part of the community, right? It was resistance. We persevered. Identity under the forced assimilation. We kept to who we were. Efficiency. You can communicate much quicker in a hostile environment. You don't have time to be sitting around jabbing. You just need to get the information there and use as few words as possible. This is why outsiders often hear the words but miss the meaning. Because we weren't talking to them. I know. All right, so I'm going to be wrapping this up because I've been talking for a long time. But I just want to say this, that it's really important that we study our roots, that we understand who we are, that we go deep. And, sometimes people say, oh, I don't need to know that. I don't need to understand that. I know who I am and I'm comfortable with that. And that may be okay for you. But to truly understand the shoulders of those you stand on and what they had to do to lift you up, sometimes it's necessary to go deep and understand why we do the things we do. This is Roz. It's been another episode of Triple Shot of Sass. And guess what? We'll see you next Tuesday.